It was nearly midnight on a chilly Friday when Officer Sarah Miller pulled her cruiser into a quiet gas station off Route 66. The neon sign buzzed weakly, and the place looked almost deserted. She'd been on patrol for 6 hours straight, tired but alert, sipping the last of her lukewarm coffee. As she stepped out to stretch her legs, a cool wind carried the faint smell of fuel and asphalt. The silence felt heavier than usual. Sarah was a seasoned cop, 5 years in the force, trained to trust her instincts. And right then, something didn't feel right. The parking lot was empty except for a black pickup parked near the side of the building. The windows were tinted dark. She noticed movement inside, but couldn't tell how many people were there. She brushed it off, walked toward the store to grab a fresh coffee, and nodded to the tired-looking cashier. But as she returned to her cruiser, a faint clatter echoed from behind the building, like a bottle hitting the ground. Her hand instinctively went to her sidearm. "Hello? This is Officer Miller, St. Clair PD. Anyone there?" she called out firmly. No answer. She slowly made her way behind the gas station, her flashlight slicing through the shadows. That's when she heard footsteps, heavy, quick, and close. Before she could turn, someone grabbed her from behind. "Got you now, cop," a rough voice hissed. Sarah twisted, breaking free long enough to elbow the man in the ribs. He cursed, and another attacker appeared from the darkness, swinging a pipe. The blow caught her on the shoulder, sending her crashing against the wall. Pain shot through her arm, but she didn't let go of her baton. She swung hard, striking one of them in the leg. He went down howling, but the others kept coming. There were 3 of them, local thugs she recognized from old case files. Drug runners always slipping through the cracks of the system. "You should have minded your own business," one spat, snatching her radio and tossing it aside. Sarah struggled to reach for her gun, but a boot came down on her wrist. She gasped in pain, helpless for the first time in years. Then, just as fear began to settle in, a low rumble rolled across the night. Engines. At first, she thought backup had arrived, but the sound was too many, too deep. Out of the darkness, a dozen motorcycles emerged, headlights cutting through the mist. Leather vests glinted in the light. The Hells Angels. The thugs froze, confusion flashing in their eyes. One of the bikers, a massive man with a gray beard, stepped forward. His voice was calm but deadly. "You boys got 5 seconds to walk away," he said. No one moved. The next moment erupted in chaos. The Angels advanced like a storm, overpowering the thugs with precision and fury. Sarah could only watch, bruised but alive, as the gang she'd been trained to fear became her unlikely saviors. The flashing red and blue lights painted the cracked pavement as backup finally arrived. Officer Sarah Miller sat on the curb, breathing heavily, her uniform torn and bruises darkening her skin. Beside her, 3 handcuffed thugs groaned in pain, courtesy of the Hells Angels, who stood silently nearby like a wall of leather and steel. The sheriff's deputies jumped out of their cruisers, guns half drawn, unsure of what they were seeing. One of them muttered, "What the hell happened here?" Sarah wiped blood from her lip. "They jumped me behind the station," she said, nodding toward the thugs. "These men saved my life." All eyes turned toward the Angels' leader, a broad-shouldered man with gray in his beard and a patch that read, "Grayson Bear Cole." He didn't flinch under the lights. "Your officer was outnumbered," he said plainly. "We just stepped in." The deputies hesitated, clearly conflicted. Everyone in town knew who the Hells Angels were. They weren't exactly known for helping cops. Yet tonight, the impossible had happened. The bikers had done the right thing. Bear gave Sarah a respectful nod. "You're tough, officer. You didn't give up. That counts for something." As the deputies took the thugs away, the Angels revved their bikes, ready to leave. Before they did, Bear turned back one last time. "Don't let them twist this. You did your job. We just evened the odds." And then they roared off into the night, leaving the smell of gasoline and redemption in the air. A week later, Sarah sat at her desk at the precinct, still nursing her shoulder. Her fellow officers treated her differently now, not out of pity, but respect. The story had spread fast. A female cop rescued by the Hells Angels. Reporters called, the sheriff gave a statement, and the community buzzed with disbelief. But for Sarah, it wasn't about headlines. She couldn't shake the image of Bear's steady eyes, the strange honor in the way he'd protected her. He wasn't a hero in the traditional sense, but he'd done what real men were supposed to do: step in when it mattered. A few days later, she saw him again, at a local charity event. The Angels had shown up not to make noise, but to donate $10,000 to the town's youth center, the same one struggling to keep teenagers away from gangs and drugs, the very life that had ruined those thugs behind the gas station. When Sarah walked up to him, Bear gave her a small grin. "Guess we're both in the business of keeping people safe, huh?" She smiled back. "Seems like it." That day, something changed in the town. The police and the bikers, two worlds that never mixed, found an unexpected bridge between them. Every night after that, when Sarah drove past the old gas station, she remembered the roar of those engines. What once sounded like danger now felt like protection, because that night when thugs attacked her, the Hells Angels didn't just save her, they changed everything.